Okay, so now we are here at the DAW, and I'm using Logic Pro X, which is pretty much the only DAW that I have. I mean, some people have mixed opinions on Logic Pro X, but so far it's the best I got, and I think it's really great. I do. So, the one thing that I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video was signal to noise ratio. Now, what signal to noise ratio is, when you start leveling and adjusting your gain, when you do, let's say, a mic check, um, the goal is to have your signal peak at the level that you desire. So that way you can start from a very much more cleaner state when you start mixing and mastering. So ideally for me, my signal to noise ratio would be at about -10. So -10 is where I want the kick drum to peak, and that's how I get this much headroom right here for me to work with. The headroom is these empty spaces from above and below. And the reason why is because when I'm going to be adding EQs and compressors and any other plugins that I might add, I'm going to be adding a lot more decibels. And if I don't have an ideal signal to noise ratio, let's say that, for example, this waveform right here is actually much more bigger and it's really eating up a whole lot of headroom, then I'm in danger of clipping and distorting and spiking, which would be like on the red levels right here, which you do not want at all. You don't ever want your signal to peak at the red level, which is pretty much which pretty much goes above 0 decibels, or unity in this case. So just think of the number line. I mean, the leveling is measured in the number line. So negative and positive. So if you're in the negative, you're safe no matter what. But if you exceed from 0 decibels and beyond to the positive side, then you are really clipping and distorting, and your signal will just be way too loud and way unbearably unaudible. So now the first thing we're gonna do here is we're gonna do an EQ right here. So the benefits of the kick drum microphone, actually the Audix D6, is that the kick drum microphone has been EQ'd once it was in development on the factory. So it's pretty much EQ'd right out of the box. So let's say, for example, I used another kick drum mic that's has a much more boxier tone, a much more wooden sound, like the AKG D112, which is really not my most favorite kick drum mic. I mean, to me it does sound wooden and very boxy. So if that were the case here, what I would do is I would do something called subtractive EQ. Now, what subtractive EQ is, basically you are cutting out frequencies that you do not want and that you feel might interfere with the mix. So let's do this on my voice, for example, right here. So we're gonna put an EQ right here. Now what I'm gonna do is I mostly find unwanted frequencies on the kick drum in the mid-range right here, because I want the bottom warm end to peak out to cut through the mix, while I also want the high-end attack to really cut through. So let's go with this band right here, which is in the mid-range. So I bring this up right here, and then I thin out this band right here, and then afterwards I bring it up and then just sweep along the entire EQ. You can hear frequencies now that are being brought up once I start sweeping here. All right, so now I hear like this very pipey sound right here. All right, right around here. There we go. So that's a frequency that I do not want. So once I found that frequency, I just basically bring this down, and there you go. I just got rid of that unwanted frequency right there. I can give it a little bit much more wider bend right here. there you go, right about there. So that's subtractive EQ, and that's what I would do if I happen to have a kick drum sound that sounds way too wooden and boxy. So, but however, with this kick drum, I have no problem with that. I mean, this, as I said, the Audix D6 is just phenomenal. I love it. It's my favorite microphone for kick drums and other elements that are in the low sub frequencies right here, bassy frequencies. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring out the attack of the kick drum mic, or we can start at the bottom end, whichever one. It's up to you. Me, I like to start at the attack. So one common misconception that I've done by myself when I first started, and I'm sure that other people who are beginners do, is they would just boost the shit out of the frequencies right here, the high end frequencies right here, and then just bring it all the way up there, and they just bring up way too much of the attack. But although they might think it sounds pretty decent and pretty heavy, it really does not, because what you're doing here when you're boosting up the high end right here, you're making your drum kit sound way too tinny and way too thin. So this is how it sounds like actually right here. And then when I bring it back up, back down, so yeah, that just sounds horrible with the high end just completely boosted and just over exaggerated. So I want to bring that down back where it belongs right here. So yeah, also one thing is, because not only are you bringing up the higher end frequencies right here, you're also taking away you're taking away the lower end that is lost when you do that, because when you boost up, you're reducing. So we don't really want that. And also you run the risk of peaking right here. As you can see, I just passed 0 decibels right here, and now it started peaking and kind of clipping right here at 1.4 decibels right here. So you don't want that. So I'm gonna play along with this. I'm gonna play along with the entire drum kit together. So this is a simple drum beat that I recorded myself. So I'm going to adjust my high end to wherever it is that I feel it's much more suitable for me, and if I feel very happy about it. So here we go. Alright, so I'm very happy with that. I'm doing this on my headphones, which I really would not recommend when mixing and mastering. If you really want to, I highly suggest you do this on speakers, because speakers give you a much more fuller and dynamic range. With headphones, it's mostly suitable for focusing on details that you wouldn't hear in the speakers. But because I'm recording this via screen capture, I really don't want the speaker to bleed into my microphone. So that's why I'm doing this on my headphones. So oh well, it is what it is. All right, so now that I've boosted up some high end right here, I can feel that I've also reduced a little bit of its low end as well too. So I'm gonna make that up with the low end right here. So here we go. We're gonna play it and then adjust it to where I feel it's more happy. Okay, I'm very happy with that actually. So I just boosted a little bit, like up to like 2.5 decibels, and yeah, I do not want to boost up way too much because as you can see right here, we're already adding decibels a lot more. So at first it was starting to peak at about like 10 decibels. Now it went up to -6 decibels. So I don't want to add way too much more here. So I'm pretty happy with this here. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to do compressors. So we're going to do a compressor right here on the kick drum. It's under dynamics. Now what a compressor is, for those of you who don't know, it's basically a tool to control your dynamics on whatever it is that you want to control on. So we're going to control the dynamics here on the kick drum. So let's say I'm basically going to squash the transients right here. Basically squash the transients or peaks or the waveforms at least to a desirable level to where I don't want it to peak. But because I reduced the dynamics or the decibels right here, I want to make it back up. So it's pretty much, think of it as a let's say an air compressor. You know, I mean, the more it's squashed, the more the tank squashes the air, the stronger the air will flow through out from the hose from the air compressor. So think about that, or like propane or something like that. So yeah, I mean the harder it's compressed, the harder it's compressed, the stronger it will like go. I'm not gonna compress it way too much though, however, because I'm not going. I really don't want to, make it overbearing. So to the point to the point where I can't really hear the compressor at all or the kick drum at all. So we're gonna adjust the threshold here. So now what the threshold is, it's pretty much gonna tell you how much it is that you're going to reduce when you bring up your threshold right here. When you adjust your threshold, I'm sorry, I think I said threshold. I meant ratio. I'm sorry. Correct me if I am wrong in the comments down below. Anyway, so I'm gonna adjust it to about a 2 to 3 ratio. So for kick drum, I want to ideally I like to reduce up to, I want to reduce like -3 decibels of signal right here. So we're gonna play along with it and then just reduce. Reduce -3. So I'm gonna adjust my threshold until it reaches this meter right here, reaches up to this point right here, the needle. So here we go. Alright, so the threshold reduces -3 decibels up to from this right here. So right over here, it's reduced up to this point right here. You can meter this in different ways, 2 different ways, which is the meter right here, which is which you can find mostly on a lot of real actual outboard gear compressors, or you can also do it through the graph right here. So as you can see, that's an example of the compressor squashing the transients right here, but just by a little bit. It's not way too much of a dramatic change right here, but it is squashing at least a little tiny bit. Alright, so now I'm going to adjust my attack and release. And the attack and release is basically a way to tell your compressor how to react. So if I give the attack a very fast one, as you can see right here, let's do the meter. I feel like the meter is much more better for me. So if I have my attack very, very fast, you'll see how quickly the needle is going to react. And then once I make the attack slower, you can guess what happens. So that's a very slow reaction of the attack. So I'm not going to give it a quick or a very slow attack. I'm just going to give it a fairly slow medium attack right here, which is at about, let's say about 19.5 milliseconds. These are both measured in milliseconds, by the way. So let's see how that reacts. So yeah, if you want to know a lot more about compressors, I suggest you go watch a video that I'm sure there are videos out there that explain compressors in fuller details. Right now we're just focusing on getting this kick drum to get it to where we want it to sound like. So if you want to go check out a video that explains the compressor, you can go ahead and watch it, and then you can come back later so that you can get a fuller, a better understanding of what I'm doing here with this compressor. All right, so now, since I reduced some decibels from this compressor with my threshold and my ratio, I'm going to make up whatever it is that I reduce. Every gain that I've reduced, I make up. That's the general rule with compressors. So let's see, we've reduced at about -3, so we're going to reduce at about, not reduce, we're going to make up those -3 decibels back up. So here we go. Alright, so right there I'm already peaking right here, as you can see, so that's bad. My guess is that the EQ is much more, let's see, the higher end of the EQ is a little bit overbearing right here. So I'm going to adjust that up to, a little bit back forward right here. Let's see how that sounds. And if that happens, you can always just bring down your fader right here. Now, the way to fix this is you can just turn the auto gain off. The reason why it's peaking so much is because the auto gain is set to up to -dB. I don't really use these two that much. I'm not really sure what it's for yet. I mean, like I said, you can go and check out a video that explains it much more in full detail. But for me, I'll put the auto gain off right here. So now that I put the auto gain off, it won't clip anymore. And I'll actually bring my fader back up now that it's not clipping anymore. Alright, so there we go. I've brought back my desired decibel. So right here, my goal for the kick drum to peak at is at -5. So we made it right here. -5 is the top minimum. I do not want the kick drum to exceed up to like way beyond -5 dB. So I'm pretty happy with that right there. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with that. So now the kick drum is cutting through really nicely, yet with a very heavy and aggressive attack to it. So I'm actually gonna bring up the gain that I reduced right here, make it a little bit much more aggressive. back down the fader just a little bit. All right, there we go. We're like peaking like literally spot on at -5 dB sharp right here. So that's pretty good. Next we're gonna do is we're gonna do a noise gate. Now what a noise gate is, it's pretty much a tool that opens and closes whenever a bigger waveform comes through. So for example right here, here we can see the bigger waveforms, which is the kick drum playing, while these other smaller waveforms are basically just cymbal and snare bleeds. So we want to get rid of those. So here's how I'm gonna solo it so you guys can hear just how they sound like. So as you can hear a lot of the cymbal and snare bleed coming right into the kick drum microphone. So we're gonna get rid of that by using this noise gate right here. So I'm gonna adjust it. However, I'm gonna solo it just so that I can hear the kick drum on its own, so that I know that I am actually reducing the unwanted waveforms right here, or the unwanted bleed. So here we go. Alright, so I adjusted the threshold at a very hard rate right here, and now you can see that every time these smaller waveforms come through, you won't really hear it because the noise gate closes right after this bigger, larger waveform hits. So alright, yeah, so I mean, I can still hear the cymbal bleed, but at least it's very minimal, and it's not very bothersome anymore than it was before. So it's really not meant to, or not meant to completely get rid of these smaller transients. They're just it's mostly to just bring them down so that they won't be way too audibly apparent once you start to mix everything else. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure you can completely get rid of it. However, I really don't have enough time yet, so to really meddle with it as too much. But that's the general idea right there. So just make these not audibly apparent. So with that being said, we got a completely different type of kick drum than we had before. So I'm going to shut these off right now, the plugins that we've used, and right from the get-go, actually, you can already tell that the kick drum sounds pretty good at its rawest. So you can listen right here. So you see, it sounds pretty good already from the start, and that's because of the mic placement. Like I mentioned before, I have the kick drum pointing right towards where the center of the beater hits, or the center of the of the drum kit. Yeah, it's hitting right towards where the beater hits, which is where the attack and the strike is being generated. And now we're going to, just so that we can see what it is that we've done, we've completely made it into a whole entirely different thing right here, which is pretty amazing. So you can hear that the kick drum is really, really cutting through a whole lot actually. So, and we only just use the three basic plugins that I would use, or that anybody would use in a drum kit or in a kick drum right here. I mean, it's just the basic EQ, basic compressor, and a basic noise gate, and that's really all you need pretty much. Of course, you are going to need some higher quality equipment like the Audix D6 drum microphone, because I mean, the Audix D6 alone is already punchy as hell, as you can see right here. It already has a nice attack and a very nice bottom end to it. I mean, I just love that microphone so much. I mean, just listen. And so there you have it. That's how I go on about mixing and mastering kick drums. So next thing is how to mix and master the snare drum. So that's going to be a completely different video for now, but I'm really happy to do this. I'm glad to finally do an editorial like this. I mean, I've been wanting to do something like this for a very long time, and I'm really, really happy that I've done it. So I hope you guys find this educational and helpful for you guys. So, and without being said, go on and take the teachings that you've learned here and keep on learning from other people as well, and go out there and make great music. Let's go on out and make great music. None of that gay bullshit pop shit. Like, let's just make great, decent, enjoyable music. Anyway, with that being said, I'll see you guys later.